6,000 years ago, in a land of mud and reeds, humanity made its boldest leap forward. Southern Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers flooded unpredictably, carving new paths and drowning farmland, became the unlikely stage for the birth of civilization. It was not a paradise. There were no forests for timber, no stone for building, no metals for tools, only clay, reeds, and rivers that refused to obey. And yet, from this chaos, something extraordinary emerged: the world's first true cities, the invention of writing, the foundations of law, mathematics, astronomy, and even beer. This was Sumer, the civilization that gave birth to history itself. But who were the Sumerians? That remains one of history's great puzzles. Their language is unlike any other, not Semitic, not Indo-European, a true linguistic orphan. Even the names of their cities, Uruk, Kish, Lagash, don't come from Sumerian. Some scholars argue they were native to Mesopotamia, descendants of earlier cultures like Ubaid and Uruk. Others point to their language as evidence of migration, borrowed words for farming, borrowed names for rivers and lakes. Their own myths say they came by sea from a paradise island called Dilmun, which we now know as Bahrain. Archaeologists found traces of Sumerian presence there, but the timeline doesn't quite match. Other theories suggest Anatolia, the Caucasus, Arabia, even India. The truth is, we don't know. The Sumerians remain an enigma, a people who appeared suddenly, fully formed, and changed the world forever. Around 3100 BC, villages transformed into cities. Population swelled, and for the first time, not everyone had to farm. Specialization was born. Farmers, artisans, merchants, priests, warriors, all working together in a complex web of society. Cities like Uruk, Nippur, Lagash, and Ur rose from the mud. Each was a city-state, fiercely independent, with its own patron god and its own ruler. At the heart of every city stood the temple, a ziggurat towering above the landscape, a stairway between heaven and earth. Markets bustled with trade, potters shaped clay, weavers spun textiles, smiths hammered bronze. Life was noisy, crowded, alive. For the first time in history, humanity lived urban. Uruk alone may have reached 50,000 to 80,000 inhabitants, making it the largest city in the world at the time. Its walls stretched 6 miles long, enclosing a vibrant center of politics, religion, and commerce. Early rulers weren't kings in the way we imagine. They were ensi, high priests, and administrators. Their job was to oversee irrigation, manage temples, collect taxes, and lead ceremonies. But when war came, a new figure emerged: the Lugal. At first, this was a temporary role chosen in times of crisis, but over time, the Lugal became permanent, eventually hereditary. Kingship was born. The famous Sumerian king list records rulers stretching back into myth, some said to reign for tens of thousands of years. Clearly legendary, but as the list moves closer to history, it aligns with archaeology. Power shifted from councils of elders to dynasties. The age of monarchy had begun, and with monarchy came ambition. City-states fought, alliances formed, empires flickered into existence and collapsed. Sumer was never unified for long, but its political experiments shaped the future of kingship itself. If you want to know why Sumer matters, here's the answer. They invented writing. It began with clay tokens used for accounting, one token for a sheep, 10 tokens for 10 sheep. Then someone had a brilliant idea. Press the tokens into clay tablets. Soon they started drawing pictograms. A foot meant foot, but it could also mean to walk. Writing evolved from pictures to ideas, then to sounds. Suddenly, scribes could record full sentences. Using a reed stylus, they pressed wedge-shaped marks into clay. That's why we call it cuneiform, from the Latin cuneus, meaning wedge. Cuneiform spread across the Near East. Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, Hittites all adopted it. More than 1 million tablets survive today, giving us an unparalleled window into ancient life. We know their contracts, their myths, their letters, even their jokes, because the Sumerians wrote it all down. The Sumerians weren't just scribes, they were inventors. The plow revolutionized farming. The wheel, first used in rituals, later carried goods and warriors. Architecture advanced with arches, columns, and ziggurats. Soap was made from animal fat and lye. Beer was thick and sweet, drunk through straws. And mathematics, perhaps their most influential gift. Their base 60 system gave us 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle. They solved quadratic equations, calculated areas, recognized the Pythagorean theorem long before Pythagoras even leisure mattered. Archaeologists found beautifully crafted board games in royal tombs, proof that play was part of civilization too. Their innovations weren't isolated, they spread across Mesopotamia, influencing Akkadians, Babylonians, and beyond. The Sumerians didn't just invent, they set the template for civilization. The Sumerians were astronomers. They tracked planets, predicted eclipses, compiled star catalogs. Their calendar was lunar, 12 months of 29 to 30 days, totaling 354 days. To keep pace with the solar year, they added a 13th month. Even the 7-day week comes from Sumer, each day linked to a celestial body, the sun, the moon, Saturn. That legacy lives on in our modern weekdays. And their astrology? They believed the stars shaped human fate, that the heavens whispered destiny. Science and religion intertwined. Their observations weren't just practical, they were spiritual. The movement of the heavens was seen as divine will. Every eclipse, every planetary alignment carried meaning. The sky was a canvas of gods, and human life was written in the stars. Long before Hammurabi, the Sumerians wrote law codes. They covered trade, property, marriage, inheritance, and crime. Justice mattered deeply. Education was central. Boys from elite families studied reading, writing, math, astronomy, law, and religion. Schools weren't just classrooms, they were cultural centers, preserving knowledge across generations. And scribes? They were the elite, the keepers of memory, the guardians of civilization. The Sumerians also developed administrative systems, taxation, record keeping, bureaucracy. Clay tablets recorded everything: grain rations, temple offerings, legal disputes. Their society was complex, organized, remarkably modern in its concerns. The Sumerians lived in a world ruled by gods: Enlil, god of air, chief of the pantheon; Inanna, goddess of love and war, fierce and unpredictable; Utu, god of the sun and justice. Their myths are some of the oldest stories ever told. The Epic of Gilgamesh, though later expanded by Akkadians, has Sumerian roots. It tells of kings, gods, floods, and the search for immortality. Even the biblical Tower of Babel may have been inspired by their ziggurats. Religion wasn't just belief, it was architecture, it was politics, it was daily life. Every harvest, every war, every law, all tied to the gods. Temples dominated city skylines. Priests mediated between humans and the divine. Rituals, offerings, and festivals structured the calendar. The gods were everywhere, and their will was absolute.